Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing the narration and character voice acting for the main story of Arknights, episode 12, aka chapter 12, All Quiet Under the Thunder. And as always, for anybody who is new to the channel and to Arknights, if you want any kind of tips or tricks how to go around the story and what else is connected to it and is important, refer just to the first episode for this, or rather the first part to this currently new released episode 12, as I've talked at the beginning of that one about that very topic. So just hit in the description of this video the link for the playlist, and you can very easily find it in there. It has Ines's face on it, you cannot miss it. And it's gonna be easier to do that there because I did talk quite in detail over in that part. And of course, as always, thank you very much for all the likes and the comments on the previous episode as well. Much appreciated. Like I always say, they do help a lot and mean a lot for the algorithm, so, and both to me as well, of course. So, thank you very much. And of course, we will now proceed with our quick little recap of the previous part. So if you wanna skip that, as always, in the description of this video, in the comment section of this video, you can find the timestamp to skip over that. But anyway, let us proceed with on the previous part. Well, we begin our journey with the Self-Salvation Corps members who are, or rather with Feist, Rock, Catherine and Clovicia, who are with a bunch of other civilians, or rather factory workers, trying to escape through underground passages out into the open. But something unexpected happens at one point. As Catherine went back to check with others and Clovicia, suddenly the bulkhead doors start closing in on them, and Feist spots very well that it wasn't an enemy or anything else who is closing the doors on them, but it's actually a portion of the workers that stayed behind, and as we soon learn, out of sheer fear and pure blind hope, thinking that they will be able to return to their own lives yet again when everything is over and they just, as we could very well put it, suck it up to the higher-ups, that they would be able to, well, lead their own lives yet again. They do keep Catherine with them, but Clovicia, who was apparently tied down by them, escaped while no one was looking, and is currently MIA. Meanwhile, Horn and Misery and Self-Salvation Corps members are fighting against the sarkaz on top of the plate, and in a desperate attempt to block off and stop as many enemies as possible, Horn decides to storm and stand in front while Misery and Robin take a hand grenade that is being handed to her and go and try and break through a power plate to escape with the other soldiers. And as Horn is steeling herself for that brief moment, for potentially her final moments, as a soldier dies in war, and things back on Bagpipe, or rather what Bagpipe might be doing right now, an unexpected visitor apparently comes along to save her hide. And it's none other than the last Steam Knight, who we've last seen in the catacombs, as the doors to the catacombs closed in on both the Steam Knight and Allerdale down there. Now, we didn't see Allerdale yet, but I will still die on that hill. But we've seen the big boy out, so why is he suddenly helping? Or is he just on rage autopilot mode against anything that is not Victorian? We shall see, I guess, at some point. But the scenes continue, and we see back again with the Self-Salvation Corps, aka Feist and Rock, as Closure is trying to open the door for them with one of her drones and is slowly cutting her way through one of them with her drones. Suddenly, an explosion occurs, the door is open, and none other than W comes to their rescue. And she immediately begins to poke fun at the very, very in-coma, unconscious kal'tsit. Because why wouldn't she? But she makes very weirdly peace with Monster, which was quite a scene. But anyway, in the meanwhile, the Glasgow members over in Norport are having their own issues, as one of the people that they've saved earlier is now stealing food rations from them, and Baird makes the decision to just let the man go and tells him not to ever be seen again by them. And he obviously stumbles off. Meanwhile, we see Paprika once again, who is currently on a form of border patrol, as the Norport region where all the civilians are is essentially walled off. The sarkaz are keeping a close watch over those same walls, and Paprika is amongst one of the people who are essentially on border duty. However, once her compatriot there goes to take a break, she does call out to someone, and that someone is none other than Colonel Sanders. Okay, I'm joking a bit, but the guy really looks like Colonel Sanders. But anyway, it is a old pub/hotel owner who is also a sarkaz, but he is a sarkaz who has lived his entire life in Victoria and counts himself as a Victorian essentially. But she does give him, because she feels pity for the sarkaz who are trapped in there as well, some food to go buy. Later we do see a scene where Manfred comes to inspect that same border control, and he asks directly Paprika if she was handing food rations over to the people on the inside. She tries to justify that it was because the person on the inside is a sarkaz, but Manfred lets her do it and orders her actually to keep on doing it, much to the surprise of the soldier next to her, because, as stated, he wants the people inside to stay alive and keep fighting. After all, they are their bargaining chips. But in the meanwhile, the party with Siege and Rhode Island arrives in Norport as well now, with the help of Trilby Asher, who goes his own way after he receives a call over the radio. And the team then also makes promptly contact with the Glasgow members that are in Norport, and they all reconvene in the old gym. They have a little get-together, reminisce about the past, talk a bit about the present situation, and we got a nice little scene with that essentially. Later, the Rhode Island and Glasgow team decide to work together essentially to save Norport Borough. And we also see that the Damazi cluster is having a little talk with Golding, as they are continuously bringing down her spirits the more they talk with her, and I'm not liking that at all. We also see a conversation play out between another portion of the Damazi cluster that is in talks with Logos, as they are reminiscing about the past. Essentially, the cluster is talking to Logos about the civilizations that they have seen over the years and decades and millennia that have been out there, apparently. Who knows how long they've been around. And they have definitely influenced, from what they are talking, a lot of civilization and progress along the way. How one individual can make a lot of change over time when you cannot apparently die, huh? And then, towards the end, we saw W, who was escorting the injured kal'tsit and Shining out to a new safe house, as she is doing some reckless driving along the way, because why not? And finally, we've seen Rhode Island accept the proposal that Delphine posted, which was essentially to go to a civilian comm station and send out a call to pretty much anybody who is listening. But more so, they are hoping that the Dukes will listen in, and that they will send finally personnel to save the people who are trapped in Norport. Because when word gets out that there are still alive people, civilians in Norport Borough, the Dukes cannot sit on their arses anymore. They need to make some action happen then. And finally, we ended with a kerfuffle that happened over some supplies that were pretty much just rolled around on the streets outside, as people were stumbling over each other, killing each other, slaughtering each other just for a can or two, to get their hands on a can or two rather. And finally Morgan breaks her silence. She had enough, and she yells out to anybody who is listening that they should all stop what they're doing, because none other than Alexandrina Vina Victoria, Her Royal Highness, is literally there and amongst them, and that they need to keep their shit together, because help is coming. And with that big bluff and reveal, we ended the episode. So then, let us see how we continue today, shall we? Today, of course, we will continue on from stage, or rather the cutscene, stage 12-11, and we will finish off on 12-14. 12-12 and 12-13 are once again a before and after scene only, so practically one stage, but there is enough cutscene, as you might see by the length of the video already, to cover quite a lot of material once again. And of course, 13 is unlocking another portion here in the Cleaner's Collection, which we'll obviously read at the end again. And yeah, let's begin on 12-11, titled Ticking Clock. Given the same amount of time, the knowledge that each man can obtain is never equal. I often feel that the times change with irregularity. Their means of coming up with concepts so brilliant, their methods of forming societies so diverse, it's all dizzying. I've lived in Kazimir's many times, and every time I leave, I end up coming back. To tell you the truth, Banshee, traces of us are still present in that land of knights. I must admit, the place is indeed fascinating. Yet you didn't have me sketch out those neon-lit skyscrapers for you. You simply chose this ordinary village for the stage this time. Because it's much quieter here, and it's Kazimir's as I foresaw it. Golden farmlands amid the never-ending plains. It's a pity that these are probably no longer important to the Kazimirs of today. What do you think? How does it compare to Kazdel? Kazdel is a land of ruin, but the rubble also means that there are countless possibilities beneath it. Our visions of Kazdel may have their differences, but we can still look forward to its next iteration. And as for Kazimir's, it evolved so fast that in the blink of an eye, the Pegasi, along with their morals and glory, dispersed and withered away. And it became even sweeter, more fascinating. The descendants of the elders and the ancients accuse the sarkaz of devouring their flesh and blood and enslaving their souls. So they found a new method. They did it even better than us. They let those under their rule be fed, swallowed, turned into nourishment for their monster to continue expanding and grow. And all they have to pay is a promise of the pleasures of life. I searched for Kazimir's rulers, intrigued by what they had created, but instead I only discovered... No, there was no ruler. Those company spokesmen, those members of the General Chamber of Commerce, even the Adeptus Pravilivli or the Grand Knight, you could not call any of them a ruler of Kazimir's. Inflated desire is so powerful that it can rule itself. Is a simple thirst for survival enough to keep up with your search, Damatsi? You're more restless than I imagined. What exactly are you afraid of? Of sinking deep into the past and history. I just want to understand how to get along with others. Hey, kal'tsit. Not looking so hot, Where am I? Why not sleep in a little longer? I need some more time to get a bomb under your pillow. I'm guessing you're probably not in the best mood waking up to see me, of all people. The feeling's mutual. I'd rather die than let someone think I've been hovering over your bed, day after day with tears in my eyes, praying with all my heart and soul that you'd open your eyes. Believe me, this is just a coincidence. I only came looking for water, and you just happened to be in my spot. Where are the doctor and Amiya? Wanna take a guess? Maybe I killed them both while you were taking a lazy cat nap. Sounds like they're both fine, for now. You have so much faith in me. What's our present location? The outskirts of Londinium, in a safe house of mine. The courtyard out there is packed with a whole bunch of your people right now. Is this favor of mine part of your grand plan too, kal'tsit? You can try thanking me from the bottom of your heart, and I'll consider accepting your gratitude. Ascalon and I did work out several plans, and we did consider enlisting the help of ex-Babel members for the worst-case scenario. I always knew you were so good at calculating everyone's usefulness. But I have to thank you, W. As you requested, from the bottom of my heart. Oh? Did Theresa smash your head in too hard? Did it go shining? W? I was kidding about calling shining, by the way. Getting a brain injury wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing for you. Can you help me up? I need to get out of bed. Fine. Water for you. Thanks. Withdrawing from Londinium was an extremely risky operation. Can you tell me the current situation? You sure you want to ask me? Closure is busy getting those temporary barracks up now, but we could keep our distance from each other still until she gets back. I want to hear it from you. Mercenaries have a keener sense of danger. Fine. Your self-salvation corps got played by Manfred hard. He and his little sidekick seem to have found just the right time to take you guys out. The way I see it, those poor city folk were never a match for sharp-edged, blood-licking sarkaz scum. And now your poor wretches are being driven out of Londinium, which honestly to me is a good thing. It's way better than dying in some alley for nothing. The only good news is that the Dukes finally got moving. That bitch Ines tells me the doctor and the little bunny were kidnapped by a certain duke who wants to use them to do a favor. A duke? So a war has broken out after all. Isn't it tragic? You've missed out on all sorts of excitement. Any regrets, kal'tsit? Seems like your gigantic brain didn't get you the results you wanted. I've never regretted my actions. But sometimes I feel exhausted. Wow. So you're actually capable of such a show of emotion. I gotta grab this once-in-a-lifetime chance to take a selfie with a poor, miserable kal'tsit. I won't pretend to be the type who hides in the shadows and gropes in the direction of history, although sometimes I do hope that things go my way. I and my past selves have tried many approaches. Some have been successful, while others in hindsight have proven to be questionable. But I still maintain that every choice has been made with rational judgment, and was the optimal choice at the time. Optimal, huh? Optimal. Using such a term does make it sound like all related problems were solved. But that's not really the case. I can only ensure that things don't turn out for the worst. But no matter how I try, the results often prove to me that the impact of an individual can make is always limited in the end. No matter who it is. Even if this name, kal'tsit, and the memories she carries have been walking these lands for so long, what I can accomplish might be called insignificant. I destroyed Kazdal once. The me that I was then believed that it was the only way to bring peace. We managed to behead the Lord of the Fiends then, and we were victorious, for all intents and purposes. According to our plans, we should have reclaimed the king's authority. I had prepared all kinds of plans, and the successors were under my supervision. But at that moment, Theresa chose to pick up the Black Crown. Hey, I'm not here for a history lesson. But I'm awfully curious, kal'tsit. Why did you and her put Babel together anyway? What exactly do these sarkaz mean to you? If you're just trying to play with our lives, Theresa wouldn't be on your side. We found that, in actuality, the sarkaz aren't so different than the rest of us as we had originally thought. Not inferior to any other race, nor nobler than any other existence. No matter where we've come from, Originium has changed us all into a similar form, possessing the same emotions and desires. This land is currently in an ugly state. The sarkaz souls whisper of being the former masters of this world, and they were slaughtered, oppressed, displaced for countless millennia. I have seen the times of old. I was there when only sarkaz walked on the land. In fact, the term sarkaz actually originates from an arrogant abbreviation of their murderers, though it has also become a rallying cry for the victims. The difference between a Jal and a Goliath is huge, and so is the stark contrast in appearance between a Cyclops and a Diablo. But why have they all been classified as common sarkaz? If a vampire establishes his own country, how would it be any different from the arrogant Victoria of today? If a Cetr were to rule all civilization, how would the culture be any different from those under the ice-cold rule of Ursus? Theresa and I came to the conclusion that these conflicts ultimately lead nowhere. She dived so deep into the Lord of Fiends' memories and realized what I had feared was indeed possible. Our time, or rather, all time for these lands, this world, is running out. Why are you telling me all this? Didn't I say I'm not into history? It's precisely because you're not, W. History has made vampires, liches, Cetr, Damatzi, gargoyles, made all of you into sarkaz, but it has also bound the sarkaz to the past. Kazdal shall be rebuilt, but what will it be rebuilt on? Perhaps someone like you would have a different answer than I do, W.
So, I hate to interrupt here for a second, but let's review this once more. Let's review this history lesson by our favorite fossil. I have seen the times of old, talking about the previous kal'tsits. I was there when only sarkaz walked on the land. Only sarkaz. And before I go to the second sentence where it says that the sarkaz were under a different name before, here it's talking about the sarkaz as we know them right now. So the different the different individual races that we now know as sarkaz were the only ones, apparently, as a sentient race of that kind on the planet. Or in general in Terra? Because Terra is not a planet. She continues with, in fact, the term sarkaz actually originates from an arrogant abbreviation of their murderers. So, there was something else or some other race or some other beings before, or rather alongside the people that we now know as sarkaz that have been killing them and murdering them in spades, more than likely, and they were called something similar to this name. But, as she continues, though it has also become a rallying cry for the victims. So, all of the races that we now know as sarkaz, the vampires, the liches, the cyclops, goliaths, every single one that is under the same banner, the Wendigos, were once upon a time hunted and murdered by a different race, who had a name that is similar to sarkaz, but the victims, aka the people that were being hunted, took that original name and abbreviated it into the name we now know as sarkaz, as a sign of essentially mockery. The thing you are hunting is calling itself in a similar fashion to what you are, kind of deal. Kind of wonder if we're gonna ever get the full name of whatever the other race is, because I don't remember that being mentioned anywhere else. But very interesting history lesson. Thank you, our dearest fossil. Anyway, continuing with the scene.
Are you still worried about Catherine, Feist? The wounded have settled down for the time being. That sarkaz mercenary called W, she's really capable. The Self-Salvation Corps has already reorganized themselves, and I think we'll be back in Londinium in no time.
Oh yeah.
Rock, did you see anyone yesterday night? You mean like sarkaz troops?
No, of course not. Strangers or... I don't know, actually.
What's going on?
I received a letter. It was in my suitcase this morning.
Wasn't it written by a Self-Salvation Corps soldier?
The handwriting's really familiar to me, but no one's coming to mind.
The letter said that Granny is in Londinium safe and sound, and I needn't worry. And it also contains several addresses, not very far from here. The only person who would do such a thing would be a certain Duke.
Yeah.
But that Duke isn't a Londinianer.
Don't worry, I know exactly whose side I'm stood on. No matter what those bigwigs think of us, we're not their pawns. They think the war is just a scramble for power, and that we don't have the right to make our own choices. The Self-Salvation Corps will show them all they're sorely mistaken. Alright then, and we continue on to stage 12-12, titled Hats Off. The loyal subjects are saluting before the king's procession. Slaughtering. Well, they're doing that as well, but anyway.
60% of the infected here were infected within the week. They're deteriorating fairly rapidly too. Almost everyone here seems to have been abusing their Reginium arts. They haven't had time to learn what being an infected feels like or how to live as one. If only Shining was here. No, even a typical Rhode Island medic operator would be doing a far better job than I am now. All I can do is not enough. Don't blame yourself, Amiya. You've been at this the whole time. There weren't as many infected in the streets of Norport before. It's true that everyone here fights tooth and nail just to get by, but we are in Londinium after all. It was only after I had left that I gradually came to realize just how lucky I was. What I took for granted was just exceptions for my privilege. People misjudge their own abilities in the environments they inhabit, mistakenly believing they rightfully earn their positions in life through their own efforts. Only when everything crumbles does one recognize the silver spoon in one's mouth.
Such self-awareness, Your Royal Highness. So this is what you came back for? To grow a large base of loyalists to help you ascend to the throne? I'm the stupid one here. I actually thought you were the legendary siege they would willingly die for.
It was not my intention, Cetr. I've never claimed to be any kind of royalty, but that move Morgan pulled did prove useful. You talked of unity before, so regardless, this is just a...
Wow, such an honor to earn praise from Her Royal Highness Vina. How touching. Should we shake hands and find your royal photographer to take a picture of us together?
I don't know how I offended you, Cetr, but I believe we should be on the same side.
The same side? Look, you're all clean and innocent. But us? Just the other day we kicked out an old couple. They were my neighbors at the apartment I was renting, and they used to be real nice to me, even giving me fried fins they had made too much of. When we were dragged out by the sarkaz and brought to this area, I saw them panicking in the crowd, practically drowning in it, trying their hardest not to let go. I couldn't take it anymore and I brought them to the boxing gym. That old lady worked really hard and helped us out a ton. The old man... well, he told a good joke at least, and a night watch with him around was never boring. But I had him leave a few days ago. Nilfine gave him 2 days worth of rations and helped them settle down at the Sud shopping center's basement car park. That place must have already been looted a dozen times, but if you're lucky you can sometimes find food that's been left behind.
That's a solid shelter. It should be safe enough.
Yeah. But they were infected. Turned not long ago at that. I don't know where the originium dust even floated from. And they're old, and their condition was worsening rapidly. And I didn't give them a single ripathy inhibitor, because they should go to someone younger and stronger who needs it more.
I understand your decision, but...
I know. They're ancient. They would probably die from a sarkaz's arts, or from a building collapsing in on them, or even from a heart attack triggered by a cannon blast. But I snatched their last shred of hope away from them. They might have even survived, but I killed them. And I don't think I've done any wrong. You know what, Vina? Can you imagine how they were when they left?
I can imagine...
No, you can't. No crying, no pleading, no cursing. That old man was still making jokes up until the very last moment. Mocking the head chef of the old Gaulish restaurant at the mall. They clutched their tiny little bag, stuffed with all their remaining hopes. And just like that, they helped each other up through all their shaking and trembling and went out the door. If they were unlucky, they might have already been robbed by some roadside lunatic. I dreamt of them yesterday.
You're not responsible for any of this, Cetr. You're just...
You think I dreamt of their tragic deaths? From a ripathy starvation or the flames of war? I dreamt that the war was over, that Norport had returned to Londinium, and we were rebuilding our home. I saw order being restored, the city walls patched up, us living in spanking new houses. And then amongst the crowd celebrating it all, I saw that old geezer. Still alive, he had survived. And sometimes it was his wife instead. he or she would stare at me dead on. Those eyes, in the gaps between the fireworks. I was never afraid of them dying. I know I made a cruel decision. I forced them to sacrifice themselves for a chance to save some others. But what if, when all of this is done and over with, hatred still flows on the peaceful banks of the St. June River? He'll gaze at me, as if asking me, how should I answer? How do I leave this war?
I'm very sorry.
Don't apologize, Vina! You don't have the right. You hold a sword that only exists in fables. And us, the former boss of the Glasgow gang, is actually a king. And those young thugs following her are knights, supporters and vassals of royalty. And then you say that you've returned. You should help us. You can save us, and we should unite and stand together by your side. Real funny, innit? After all everyone's been through. After the Glasgow gang who helped others run their turf become a ragtag group of drifters, thieves, robbers, and murderers, you finally returned. You became knights, kings, and saints. I should be welcoming you with open arms, King of the Siege. Your Glasgow gang isn't here anymore. You are nothing. To us members of the current Glasgow gang, you are nothing at all.
But we have to work together. Only then we can survive the war.
You sure are clever. Vina, we don't plan to stop anything. And you have no good reason for us to sacrifice ourselves for your lofty ideals. You lot and the nobles are at war with the sarkaz, fighting over something I could have never thought about my whole life. And us utterly defenseless commoners were pushed here by just the slightest ripples of your war. Yes, for the sake of keeping my head, I will first resist the urge to strangle you to death. You lot can stay here, and go on with your magnificent plans to save this neighborhood, or the whole damn country. Or you can finish your business, and then leave quietly, just as you arrived. I have no thoughts on any of this, Your Royal Highness. Am I even qualified to ask?
No. I'm only a member of the Glasgow gang, and the Vina you know.
Then we wait and see, Vina.
I told you before, Mr. Colbert, holding up supplies and throwing them out was not a good idea.
It is indeed different from what I had imagined, Percival. I thought this would somehow help a few people. They could have each swiped one of 2 cans of beans and they could make it last until the next distribution. I should have made this even more public.
It would have ended the same, Mr. Colbert, or maybe even worse. Even if they were pretending to be polite before, you should probably hide somewhere safe with the way things are now. It's good that you have some life-saving supplies, but take a guess. Would you look more like a saint or a devil in their eyes?
I am a sarkaz in the first place. Are they telling the truth? An Aslan heir to the throne. The dukes are following her orders and are about to launch an assault here.
I'm sure you're not one of those street punks who believe in those legends. We all know how the king died.
Whoever they are, they've helped us greatly, so we should
talk with them, right? Miss Ines, we should have gone about this in a gentler. You're the one from before. Believe us, we mean no harm.
We just want to talk to you.
Do you think I'd believe you?
And who that mystery, a sarkaz mercenary, and your claim of being in cahoots with the Aslan King?
Anything is possible. I never expected I'd get another identity for myself here.
What are you planning?
You're both from the Sunset Street Hotel, right? Seems like these two know their secret channels well.
A kindly sarkaz mercenary gave us some supplies. It's not much, but I think...
Let's not be hasty, sir. We can talk this out. We also have some attractive proposals for the both of you.
Fine, it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're serious about helping out the Berties. So this hotel is still standing. I thought it was a complete ruin from the outside. I could spend 5 hours complaining to you about how difficult it was to put up a facade of ruin. We just want to avoid trouble. Mr. Colbert here isn't the fighting sort.
I hope you won't blame me, but I just want to maintain the dignity of this hotel. It used to be a great place, and I've worked here my whole life, so I couldn't bear to see my hard work burn to ash.
I understand, Mr. Colbert. I remember what it used to look like. These dazzling crystal chandeliers, passionate doormen and waiters, and those gorgeous suites. Not to mention those beautiful flags hanging on the door.
Flags? I see you were once a valued guest of our establishment.
That was many years ago. We can talk about these things later. I hear there's a sarkaz mercenary giving you food.
Yes, a young girl who calls herself Paprika. I have a feeling it's not an easy matter for her.
Paprika? Do you know a mercenary by that name, Ines? I saw a brief from Ascalon's mission in Highbury, and the name came up. I remember now. She let Catherine go. Manfred apprehended her, and I thought she was already dead.
So you're saying this is a genuinely kind sarkaz?
No, this means that the food supply is probably within the scope of Manfred's plans. The military commission needs the people of Norport to stay alive. For now, at least. What are they waiting for?
We don't have the time to care about sarkaz plans now, Rhode Islanders. I know this hotel uses a communication station and I need to use it. What are you planning to do?
Contact the Dukes and have them provide backup.
So your story about Her Royal Highness was fake after all. You gave the people of Norport a phony promise.
We are working hard to make it a reality.
As long as we get the broadcast out, the Dukes won't sit idly by. This I can assure you. You believe in those nobles that much?
I just believe in their ambition.
And what about after your broadcast? There's no way to encrypt a frequency here, so the sarkaz are going to hear it too.
Miss Vina told me that she and the Glasgow gang will organize an operation to break through the blockade walls.
And should they manage it, there should be secret passages leading outside. They've used it before. So we just have to hold out until the Dukes launch their assault. And how long will we need to hold out?
Under 4 hours.
You sound certain. And after leaving this area, this is a battlefield after all.
That's a problem for later. There's no way we can plan for everything in advance.
We just have to escape this place. And then, what happens after will surely...
Just a second. Are there any other guests in the hotel?
No, of course not. It's just me and Percival hiding here these days.
The shadow is expanding?
Hide yourself and follow me.
Huh? But... Miss Ines, Miss Ines, don't drag me! Come with me if you want to live, Delphine Windermere. I will let that hang there. Delphine Windermere. If it wasn't already obvious, just for probably her getup, she's a noble. And from what she said, just about being a visitor to this hotel and being a bit vague about it as well, she has ties, or rather, she is of the Windermeres, of which we already heard about before. What? How did you... You'll want to leave here too.
What? What's going on now?
Mr. Colbert, do as they say. Doctor, you... Leave it to me. And don't worry, we're still cooperating with him. You should have a good chat with Miss Delphine. This is concerning Rhode Island's future. I get it. You want a chair, sir?
No need. I prefer to stand. You've gotten me into quite a bit of trouble, Doctor of Rhode Island. The identity of Her Royal Highness Alexandrina is an extremely sensitive matter in Victoria, and you should have been well aware of this. I had thought we already came to a tacit understanding in this matter. But, well, let us put that aside for the moment. Might you introduce me to that hasty blue-haired lady who just left? I would like to make her acquaintance. Perhaps even share a dance with her.
How about no? Anyway, this is obviously only a before story on the stage, and we do get introduced to one new type of enemy here, which is the Shadowing Trilby Asher. And as a reminder, it is obviously not a mini boss stage or whatever, these are just enemies on the stage, and Trilby Asher is obviously not the guy's name, of course. It is a name for their order, you could say, right? But anyway, it reads here, to the Duke of Castor, a Trilby Asher is more of a consumable than a collectible. On the day a Trilby Asher is honored with the job, another Shadowing Trilby Asher is also born, only succeeding their predecessor when their mentor dies. So essentially, these Shadowing Trilby Ashers are like a lower tier, essentially. They literally just get pushed into the rank if the higher ranking one perishes in battle. But anyway, we continue on to stage 12-13, titled Against the Light. No one can proclaim themselves able to bear the responsibility of the country's future. And of course, before going into the story, we do have another new enemy here. We do have the Trilby Asher finally as an enemy here, which says, forever honor one's commitments. The proud motto of House Castor. While the Duke's military and political might are more than enough to back their word, the Trilby Ashers are the real reason why the Duke of Castor's words hold any weight. Anyway, we shall continue with the after part. So, your name really is Delphine Windermere. How did you know? I guessed. Fine, you guessed. 3 cheers for you. That's a Trilby Asher. You have the Duke of Castor behind you then. No wonder, she's after that realm blade. She's not trying to keep her ambitions up her sleeve anymore. Looks like you lot are in far more shit situation than I thought. Is Vina really back in Londinium to take the throne? You'd have to ask her. I don't really care. What do you like to care about then? How not to get my clothes dirty more than anything, if I had to say. Once I get back, I'll tell my mother she'll want to keep a closer eye on Rhode Island pharmaceuticals. Turns out we were underestimating the medical organization. What? Do I not look like a doctor? No. I'll try a little harder next time. Now, let's lay our cards on the table, Delphine. How many men did the Duke of Windermere deploy on this plate? I have 2 bodyguards, but I assume they're both dead. Just after the Sarkaz put this place under lockdown, they tried to break out with me in tow. They failed. 2 bodyguards. Very down to earth for a Duke's princess. You have eyes on that sword too? You can relax. Duke Windermere is not interested in the size of kings. I can promise you that. So why are you here? Coincidence. Let me remind you, you owe me one. You're capable of leaving right now. I'm guessing Sir Trilby Asher would love to talk with a fellow Duke's successor. If the Duke of Windermere, fighter of the good fight, knew her own daughter got into an accident on a Sarkaz-surrounded plate, what would she do? I imagine any Duke would love to see her competitor take the first turn in fighting Theresis to the last man. Of course, I could be too mean theorizing about him. He's still outside. Maybe he'll invite you for afternoon tea. I'll be totally frank, Miss Ines. Your arts have saved my life. I can't argue that. But me being trapped here really is just a coincidence. Every Duke has their own intelligence network in Londinium, whether it's to monitor Sarkaz movements or peep at what the other Dukes are doing. If we're being completely honest, the latter's more important than the former. I simply thought Norport Borough would be a suitable place to hide. To go further, an AWOL Crown heir once part of the Glasgow gang would be a very meaningful source of intel for you. Not exactly. Me and Bear just liked going to the same video shop. My guess is the fact Vina can wander around Norport with the size of kings and hasn't been shopped off together with the sword to meet the Duke of Castor. That's because our Trilby Asher wants to use your group's power to settle some of his own problems. Right, you're looking for the airship. It's true, no Duke would resist the temptation. Even I want to know how the Sarkaz can construct a flying fortress. It'll upend how future wars are fought. You people really love these wars. I'd think a Sarkaz mercenary would be just as passionate. Okay, fine, I do owe you one. So, what does Rhode Island House of Darling Doctors plan to use my life for? Like I just said, I've got no bodyguards or troops I can send out for you here. Be as disappointed as you want, Miss Ines. I can help you, your friends, or the Trilby Asher with any of your issues. We can handle our men and the airship ourselves just fine. Then what do you want? You know full well what I am worth to you, Castor, but you still rescued me. You're not telling me you helped me a bunch just because you're that kind of good of a person? Sorry, but no. Worth asking. It'd be hard for us to compete with Duke's power, I'll grant that. And compared to Rhode Island, I'm afraid that the Duke of Castor has more of her energies focused elsewhere. I trust you can talk your mother into helping out here. That's a very high asking price. You want the support of my mother stepping up so you can break free from Duke Castor's control. You know what a tightrope act that's going to be. Unfortunately, that's the only choice our House of Darling Doctors has. Doctor, I don't know if their talks with that hotel are going smoothly or not. Maybe I should have gone with them. Don't worry, Amiya. Miss Ines isn't going to put the doctor in danger. Besides, we're just borrowing their comm station. I know, and I know the sick here need me more. We nailed down a specific evacuation time before they left. We'll need to withstand the counterattack from the sarkaz barracks. As long as the dukes and the sarkaz open fire on each other, the chance is ours to take. The plan will go smoothly. Yes, I'm just somewhat uneasy. There's something here that's stifling me. I don't know what it is. At first I thought it was just how heavy the atmosphere was in Norport, and after that I thought Theresa was wanting to show me something again. But it doesn't seem like either of those. Amiya, when I was aboard the landship I met some who called you the King of Sarkaz. They were sarkaz themselves. What does that mean to you? You clearly aren't a sarkaz. Do you hope to be a ruler who can lead her subjects, or a hero who spearheads the change?
Siege runs a light hand over the size of kings at her side. The blade is still ice cold as ever.
I don't know, Siege. I have to confess. There was a future Theresa showed to all of us. I still firmly believe that the future she recounted is worth living for, more than anything else. But she gave the crown to me, yet didn't tell me just how I should arrive there, and now she's stood opposing us. I can only try to convince myself that this is her way of testing me. I haven't actually decided how I'll face her. What will she say to me? How will she look upon what I'm doing? Will that path I choose by myself disappoint her? I don't know if I'm someone worth handing the authority of the King of Sarkaz. But still you choose to undertake that duty. I worry myself that I can't be the person they're all expecting. The hero who can cleave apart catastrophe, the monarch who can unite the citizenry. How am I meant to do that? How am I meant to respond to hopes that heavy? Tear down a wall, or persuade a few nobles? Shout to the people, or use silence to display my majesty? I'm not good at any of that, and Gawain never taught me it either. I spent most of my time in the Glasgow gang, beating up rowdy drunkards, running with my friends to help them shake the coppers. That's all I knew. And I learned a few things at Rhode Island, but that wasn't going to help me figure out what I should do. I thought it'd click when I came back. But once Morgan took the lead on the people here calling me Her Royal Highness, still I couldn't find a thing to say. I don't know what to do. I'm so glad it was just a temporary trick to keep everyone placated. But then, what if I do genuinely have to take that road? I just couldn't ignore how these people were suffering. That's all it was, and now it's become this. Siege, perhaps that much is enough. Theresa once told me that the King of Sarkaz wasn't a duty. I too just didn't want to turn away.
Meanwhile, at the tea party,
Doctor of Rhode Island, do you like your job?
yes,
Well, it seems you believe you're doing something meaningful. Regardless, I can't say I like mine. Nobody's born in love with all the jockeying and maneuvering. I know I wasn't. If it was possible, I'd use my noble name to buy a big plot of land in some far-flung county and while away my afternoons by the fireplace. With a small tusk beast to keep, ideally, and a forest behind the manor for walks and pondering questions of literature and poetry and such. I'm ashamed to say I'm a lousy poet. Sometimes I get some practice works of mine published in the Londinium Daily's literary supplement.
the man before you fiddles with his hat, almost visibly embarrassed.
The critics take no notice, but it sends me over the boots. Still, we know that's not an easy life to make real. The ideal never is. This is the age we've been cast into, All we can do is act in the way it educates us to. Tell me, who was here just now?
A Rhode Island operator.
You know who I mean, Doctor of Rhode Island. How about this? We can make a deal on the side. You bring that operator of yours out of this hotel and continue on with your mission, as previously discussed. Then once it's done, I'll give you and Her Royal Highness Alexandrina a referral to the Duke. Not as a pawn or a hostage, but as a guest and a friend. We're worth working closer with. You can be assured to forever honor her commitments is a tenet of her ladyships.
You're more interested in a Victorian than a sarkaz.
Of course, we're in Victoria after all. Don't be fooled by her appearances. Do you really think this plate is no more than a lovable little sarkaz-built prison cell?
I don't think this place is lovable.
Fine. Miserable then. Suit yourself. While you're occupied with proclaiming yourself the royal heirs apparent to Victoria and giving the infected their jabs, I'll be busy anyhow. There are common Londinium folk in torment here, but those aside, there are great numbers of people taking care to cover their tracks. People with ulterior motives. The Duke I serve wishes sincerely that Victoria regains its glory after it strides over the coals, but some aren't envisaging this same thing. I have to root them out. It's another part of my work.
Well, saving the citizens here is nothing to do with you.
Let me guess. You're ready to pull from the textbook to criticize me. So, no. It is something to do with me. I pray wholeheartedly that every person may live in peace and good health. But it's not possible, is it? Some people can cling to the now, taking every little thing by themselves, but some have weightier callings to undertake, even if it's not what they wish for. Such as seeking a future where a nation can find its footing. I respect the former type, but all the same, I hope you wouldn't reject the latter.
Every duke could claim the same thing. They all think they're seeking a future for the nation. That's the source of the disaster Victoria's in now.
I won't deny it. Some superficials would say the dukes are merely contesting over authority and advantage. It appears you're not one of them, Doctor of Rhode Island. Authority is only a means, and advantage is only a tool. What the dukes are truly vying over are the qualifications to lead this country into the future. Victoria has been dust-laden for long enough. And the sarkaz will be the sandpaper that wipes Victoria clean. With some polishing, our nation will shine with glory again.
You really are a lousy poet, Mr. Trilby Asher.
I see you're finally here, Miss Ines. I thought I wouldn't catch you in time.
Alright then, and we move on to stage 12-14. Titled Ears Muffed. When bombarded by noise, we have two choices. We can cover our ears or block the source of it. So let's begin with the before part. Right, now I remember. That's the Rhode Island uniform. Mr. Guard has a set of it, and if memory serves, Miss Susie went to some Rhode Island after leaving Caledon too. So, to clarify, yes, this main story episode is taking place, or rather the events of the main story so far, are taking place after the events of the side story A Light Spark in Darkness, aka the side story, the vignette side story that introduced Golden Glow, for example. So this scene rather right now is taking place, and everything around it is taking place after that one. So there is some chronological order there for you. Anyway, and if that makes you curious and you haven't had the opportunity yet to listen to it, you can find that in on my channel, Narrated, from last year, very easily. Anyway, they should be a good bunch. Why help Miss Susie otherwise? And they're helping the infected here too. It's tough being the good ones. The good ones always choose too much responsibility for themselves. All while some responsibilities weren't meant for anyone to bear. Poor Rhode Island. Maybe they went down the wrong path from square one. Just like Nine said, injections and tablets won't solve oropathy. The body can hurt less, but others won't change the way they look at you so easily. We need to force them to see us, to hear our voices, to admit we're not just sores or ulcers on them. What do you think? You've been with me long enough, friends. Any brilliant ideas about what I just mentioned? Reunion. For those of you who might be just listening and not watching, we have 2 Dublin soldiers, standard Dublin soldiers, on the screen right now. And you can guess what that means. You aren't part of our objective. So I'm guessing we can keep doing each to our own. Fine, leave then. Well, since Dublin is in the mix now, it's about time I get them evacuated. If I had a little more time, I could have talked a few more people over. For now, let's go rendezvous with her. Meanwhile, back at the hotel. You call yourself a poet.
Miss Ines, another marvelous insight to share.
I've met a few poets before, all far better than you, because they never misuse their metaphors. Dust, sandpaper. Out of this plate, this nation, even the entire land itself, who's the dust and who's the sandpaper? And how are you qualified to decide who's who? War doesn't do metaphor in any way. It's not some terrific journey. It's not some furnace for glory once again. It's not some ship sailing for revival. It's just people struggling in mud, arms broken in ruins, stenches that never fade. That's all it is. I know that better than anyone.
We can set aside our differences for now. I respect the views of a veteran mercenary. But I do need an answer as to my proposal for promoting from pawn to friend.
Ines? Here. What was Delphine's response? She's agreed, as long as both we and her can leave this place alive. She's already left for the comm station. The broadcast will be out immediately.
That's a shame. We didn't need to go that far. You've turned down an invitation from Victoria.
The Duke of Castor can't stand for all of Victoria.
She will. Is this one of your little schemes, Stu?
Delphine? What are you... Run! There!
You. What a clamorous locale. Should I refer to you as Captain of the Red Steel Guard, or the Brigadier of Dublin? Such a surprise to see your people here.
So, like I said, the Reed side story, very important. Look who's arrived. Anyway. Finally, an end to the slog. Delphine and the doctor will sort out that comm station, right? It'll all go smooth and then we can leave Norport.
Figured out where you're off to after?
Don't know.
Anyone mucking in Norport, gang, either came out an orphanage or plain lost anyone to fall back on. Goes for us too, pretty much, I figure.
There'll be a way. We'll find some way to feed ourselves. Maybe I'll go off and join the Rusthammers. They love to tell stories about them, don't they? Don't catch me dead being a Duke's Estate refugee at any rate, down on my knees begging those ivory tower shits for my bowl of gruel.
Cetr,
I know, you think I'm still on about some naive shit like, oh, let's knock the daylights out of the sarkaz was. Baird, I've lost enough living through all this. I can't just abandon the final specs I still have. All this pain, this torment. If it turns me, crushes me soft after all, I may as well be dead in an alley.
it's maybe hard to criticize being crushed, Cetr. Nobody's actually got a spine of steel. During the day I went to the video shop. McLaren wasn't there fighting over that luggage thing of supplies, so I thought he might have had an accident.
He always thinks everyone's up to something, the weirdo.
You've gone and drunk plenty of his squash, haven't you?
Fine then. May he live forevermore. You alright? He's still alive?
Front of the video shop was wrecked. I guessed he'd been raided a bunch. I tried calling for him, but no response, so I thought he was hiding somewhere else until I saw him. Through his window, all nailed shut, just a crack left. Saw his eyes. Bulging out of their sockets, covered in blood, terrified, desperate. Didn't dare look at him again. I don't think he can come out of there anymore. You say soft, you call them that, but we know we're not that far off ourselves. We still have a chance to save all this. It'll be tough. We'll have to survive the sarkaz's likely counterattack, and then the artillery from the Duke's forces. But it's not all impossible. Right now we need to figure out what moves the sarkaz barracks are going to make against us.
Always on time to encourage us and remind us what we need to do, your majesty. Reliable of you.
Cetr,
Oh, might I have the privilege of your orders again?
I'm wondering, what would you say a king is?
What, you taking me in as your vassal?
No, I've said it 1,000 times, I'm just Vina of the Glasgow gang. I just realized I'd never honestly thought about the question before. Maybe I'm clueless how, aside from all that praise about honor and majesty, what a king is to you. No, to us, as a thing that exists.
It doesn't. It's nothing. No king's ever meant shit to us. I'm happier giving my respects to the tuck shop owner, who does a discount for me when I'm not good enough in my purse.
Victoria's always had a king, since ancient times.
Yeah? And who were they? Because I'm terribly sorry, but I'm not some hoity-toity Aslan or Draco. And I've never met one either. If they're nowhere except a few names in a book, then I know Chef Vito of the Syracusan restaurant adds better than I do them. We haven't had a king for how many years? Are our lives any worse? Fine, maybe they are. But I really doubt it's anything to do with whether we've got a king or not. Don't care if it's you or whatever heavyweight taking the throne. You're not gonna be looking us down here in the eye. By your definitions, a foolish king gets lost in banquets and wine, while a wise king draws up war and taxes. If you ask me, it's ego-chasing no matter which. The vanity of thinking you can control everything, full stop. Siege, everyone in Norport's bowing down to you as their one hope. So you tell me, you having fun? You think saving them is your glorious bloody calling?
I'd never say calling. Never. Just
you think you've got some kind of responsibility. Like they're watching you and you need to answer them. Some bloody mess you're in. Poor old Royal Highness. I'd ask, but you know full well. Are they willing to pin their sights on you because you're a member of a street gang? Or because of your bombshell of a surname, Victoria? I'll be frank, I've just as much been hoping for someone to save all this. Save all of us. Save this bloody endless cesspit. And who's going to do that? Quit dreaming. Daring to bear the responsibility is a fine moral thing that helps us mock our way in the street siege. But don't give people false hope with that king persona. And don't ever buy that they were right to expect this shit out of you since the day you were born.
got visitors.
Do we do them in?
Don't jump to anything. We don't want to tip them off. We just need a grasp of how they're deployed for now. Something's off. Be on high alert.
You lot.
Don't get the wrong idea, sir. We're not here for trouble. Just passing by.
Baird? Didn't you say don't tip them off?
Shit. I didn't do anything. This blood. He was already badly injured. He was fleeing this way. Someone in lockdown take him to task?
Don't think so. Not like we haven't tried before. Maybe there's a chance to take one or two out, but it's a whole army keeping us in here. Even if a sneak attack goes well, they'll retaliate fast unless...
Is it usually this quiet around here?
From atop these zones' walls, searchlights throw down beams of death pale white. They're well versed in the odors that pervade Norport, but here the smell of fresh blood fills the air.
Get out of here, fast! We need to gather every citizen we can still find on this plate. But we still don't have word back from Miss Ines and the doctor. We'll just have to assume for now their side's going smooth. Someone's already made a move here.
You're sure? I'm sure. That's an Aslan. She's not part of our objective. That's fine. She'll make the call herself.
Damn it. The door here's been sealed. Doctor, stay behind me.
Everyone, a warm welcome to the Sunset Street Hotel. We haven't had this many esteemed visitors in a good very long time.
Colbert, I told you to stay hidden.
Not receiving guests at the door would be my failure as the owner of a hotel. I'm very sorry for how limited we are under present conditions. I'd have some complimentary tea brought out to you all otherwise. Is there anything I might be able to help you with?
Do you have normal water then? I am a bit thirsty actually.
That I can serve, Mr. Fiend. Old Wellington wasn't willing to let this place off after all. Nor Duke Castor. Would you allow me to leave now? You and that blue-haired feline are staying. I imagine the Duke of Castor and the Duke of Wellington have an unspoken agreement on the standing off against the sarkaz front. And as for the goals of each one of us, some unspoken agreement too. I simply obey the orders I receive. Are all Tarans as dreary as you? My sense of humor is reserved for my friends. Wonderful, I love making friends. Being fellow Victorians, why don't we start by complaining about the weather? Yes, the weather, Londiniums, has been horrible, and it's only getting worse. We actually saw the sun some days 40 years ago. Our hotel was much better then than now, too. What an incredible place it was. I still remember to this day when I first came on as the doorman. I hear back then even the dukes loved staying here. Your presence isn't needed, sarkaz. Sir, I'm truly sorry, but it's my hope you'll regard me as a Victorian much like you. We are all the people of Victoria. What need do we have for tensions like this, no?
Rare to see a sarkaz self-identifying as a Victorian.
Isn't your case much along the same lines as mine, miss? Us sarkaz living outside of Castel have to find a home for ourselves, don't we?
I'm afraid most sarkaz don't think so.
Hence why they're always so despondent, so wary. In my view, well, I've lived here all my life, and every wall and every floor is a familiar one to me. Far more familiar than Castel, so far anyway. Pardon my negligence these days, but I'd wipe every table spotless by myself in older times. I was proud of my work. You really should have seen what it was like back then. Oh, different times. They put me under the illusion that days like those would last forever. But times like those came to an end. Percival, it really is a shame you came to work here after the place declined.
To be honest, I don't really care that much.
If it was as ravaged by war and shaken to rubble as everything else now, honestly, I might be taking things better myself. What hurts me is, on an afternoon like all the afternoons that used to be, I finished wiping the tables, lifted my head, and it suddenly hit me how old everything around me was. And I was clueless how it even happened.
Anyway, we do have one new enemy here on this stage, which is the Rebellion Instigator. Disruptors that constantly bypass the blockade. They weaken the enemy's forces from within by eagerly sowing fear among the masses, who in their panic break down the borough defenses all on their own. Alright, and we shall continue on with the after part.
Morgan's brought a few people back already. They're getting their medicine now. Dagda and Hannah are looking for anyone who might still be hiding in the ruins. You know the state the plate's been in these days. Barely anyone will poke their face into the street anymore.
But there's a good few tucked away shivering in cubicles in some skyscraper, living off whatever scraps they can pick once it's night. Siege, you're gonna find them all.
I know I'm obviously not going to be able to save every person, but what matters is we let them know an evacuation's about to happen. Otherwise, once the Duke starts firing their artillery, the majority aren't going to realize that's their opportunity to leave, and they'll just find some way to hide even better.
That's their choice. Maybe they'll end up still alive when the sarkaz leave.
But they need to know there are other options.
Fine. Other options. There's a few places I heard signs of life from a few days ago. I hope it wasn't just wild beasts digging at the wreckage for eats.
Morgan, what's wrong? You look funny. No, I'm fine. I'm just... just a little bit thrown. Old boy Strauss and Granny Amir got into a fight over a single jab of first aid inhibitor. One of them blinded the other in one eye. Me and Amiya busted our arses getting them off of each other again, but that eye is hopeless now. We didn't bring that much medicine in the first place, and everyone's gathered outside and some of them are in an awful panic. They're worrying they might get infected. Some of them haven't even realized they are already infected. Amiya says she hasn't been contacted by Ines some time. She needs to check on how her and the doctor are doing. I couldn't hang around there any longer on my own. Came here to catch my breath. You're real chummy with the people you brought back. I grew up here since I was a kid after all. I'm willing to bet not even you or Hannah know Norport as well as I do, let alone Siege. You were always wandering around town back then whenever you had nothing to do. Yeah, forget back of my hand, I know Norport like my palm. Every little crease and fold and where it goes. Vina, I was off trying to find all these people I'd known for yonks. I tried looking for McLaren again, and it's not that he won't respond to us. He's gone deaf. I saw blood coming from his ears. I wrote a quick note for him. Should have seen it clear as day, but he just went and hid back inside. And Karsh, guy who ran the record store, used to trick me into buying awful vinyls. Just the stallest stuff. Don't know how much money I wasted on his legs. One of his legs is nothing like a leg should look like. God knows how he shuffled over here. Brenda, the one doing import clothes, she's always lent me these fashion magazines from Lungman to read. I did some treatment on her burns for her, but... And Claire, Eileen, Ido... I know every one of them! Vina, did we come back just so we could see all this? What the hell did we come back for? Vina, if all we can do is watch on while this happens, if we don't have any way to change anything, then maybe we should have just forgotten about this place at all? You know, I've read the heroes' sagas. Their terrific adventures and journeys, their chivalry and justice, defeating the evil. But anyone outside of the heroes just a backdrop to the legend. They just exist in the story so the main character has someone to talk to, a chance to grow. I always thought that was our kind of story. I was always so bleeding proud of myself. But I know every one of them. God's sake, I know every one of them! Like this would be some bloody outline of Monster Rex Village, hero kills monster. It's not that simple. This isn't some stupid cliché revenge story. I mean, at 20 years I lived with them in my life. They're not names for a grieving hero to check off out loud. They're not flashbacks they can stuff in and aside before they kill a villain. They shouldn't be... Morgan, I know what you... Vina! Alexandrina Vina Victoria! Did you come back to this country to take a crown which was rightfully yours? To create eternal legends of yet another Aslan king? Or did you do it to come back home? Vina, I'm begging you. Tell me this isn't going to be forever. You can tell me we just need to hold on a little longer.
Tears fall from the face of someone Siege couldn't know any better. To her memory, she's practically never seen Morgan crying outside of the video shop. The size of kings is ever ice cold. The size of kings is ever silent.
I'm sorry, Vina. I don't blame you or anything. I just was walking on the street and I looked up and it all hit me. We've lost Norport Borough. We really have. Morgan. Vina,
Their friends back out. The room falls silent. Like all the past liveliness and merriment that took place in here was one long hallucination.
The furnishings, same as they were, hardly different to when they left. Nothing remains here. Over the prior days, Siege has constantly, subconsciously been feeling the sword named the Size of Kings. Once again, out of habit, she puts her hand on the hilt. She tries to feel some sort of energy from it, some sort of motivation, even some kind of duty or preordained self-sacrificial destiny would be fine. Again and again, she is left disappointed. What did she come back for? Just to experience all of this? Or did all that expectation simply fall upon the wrong person when it chose her? Did this sword and her teacher foster too much of an illusion in her to the point she thought she could be some kind of symbol? Siege has never hated her own irresolution as badly as this.
Morgan, maybe I came back just so I wouldn't regret it, just so I wouldn't realize, years down the line, that I never did anything when I first could. I don't know where I'll go from here, but I just can't bear this. Is that a fable, Mr. Colbert? Are you attempting to describe Victoria?
Fable? Oh no, I don't like to beat around the bush when I talk. I'm just waxing nostalgic, as the old do. We have to pass the time talking about something, you know? Sitting here. May I just say that I pay more attention to the future sarkaz of Victoria. Taran, you make ample preparations. Presumably you've brought a considerable head count in. But on the other hand, I'd think you wouldn't want to be battling for life and death with us. Stay put here and behave, and nothing will happen. Are you out to monopolize the technology of that airship? And did the Duke of Castor send you to this place just to take a walk? We can share. The sarkaz's defenses of the airship can't be that lax. It wouldn't be an easy mission for anyone, certainly. But if we work together, then this technology can belong to more than just a duke. It can be Victoria's. I don't care about Victoria. Well, it seems you've made up your mind. You spoke that our goals were quite in agreement. Synergy. In light of that, I will trouble you as little as I can, Path of Castor. Though you were dying to kill me a moment ago. What? Would you like me to apologize? Your mission failure will incur no more than a demotion in rank, while your life is preserved in any case. If you are insistent on commendation and promotion from Duke Castor, you are welcome to try. Old Wellington's underlings are as stubborn as him, that much I have the privilege of seeing now. Fine, I can stay here, and I'll yield the airship's technology to you. But I stipulate something in exchange.
Seems you're about to reevaluate our relationship.
Indeed it does, Doctor of Rhode Island. You refused my offer of friendship, so to being a pawn you'll have to return. I'll be taking the Realm Blade. The Windermere girl and Alexandrina must die here. Given in, Miss Successor. I did not receive orders to intervene in this. I'll take that as an agreement. As long as a deal has been made, the Duke of Castor forever honors her commitments. Every single one. You've no worries, Brigadier. That's our foremost tenet.
Ines?
Understood. Does every Victorian do that?
Never ask the people in question for their opinion. I think, Mr. Trilby Asher, I just told you a second ago your metaphors suck. And calling us pawns, that's a metaphor.
So Rhode Island is hanging on to ties with the Duke of Windermere as its last thread? That's not a good idea. You're on the wrong team.
We don't have time to pick a team to start.
Then you can only... Wait. That Windermere girl, is that illusionists and shadow arts combined? Where is she? Rhodes!
Impressive reporter, Mr. Trilby Asher.
It's a question out of tenets, after all.
The thing about honoring commitments forever.
No, a different one. Never let the winner take all. This is all meaningless now, Taran. If this lot send their message out, the Duke's main fleets will be forced to push in. And at that point, the airship goes to whoever takes it down. It seems none of us will be bringing home the gold. Fine.
Doctor, careful! Miss Ines, I made it! We saw the shadows outside the door.
Rhode Island. Duke would rather not fall out with you.
Didn't your actions just now amount to a fallout? Fine, fine. Feel free to apologize.
Then may we meet again someday.
Dublin army corpses. They did set up people here. Their wounds are fresh. Can't have been made long ago. Blade cuts. Some seem like they're cauterized. Who's there?
The room is oppressively vacant. No one responds. Delphine grips her dagger tight. Her mother always admonished her for not putting more energy into combat training, but being the daughter of the Duke of Windermere of Victoria, her swordsmanship reputed, she has got the confidence to take on most enemies.
Comm station should be around here. What the hell?
A tangled cord of wires comes into Delphine's view, but the device meant to attach to them has vanished without a trace. All that's left on the table is a thick layer of dust. Someone came and took the comm station away beforehand. Long beforehand. Ripperino, your plan. Anyway, we have one more thing to do before we end today's episode, and that is at the little entry that was opened on 12/13. This one is titled Gangster's Perfume Gift. And it says, when Norport fell into the hands of the devils, it wasn't just the old nobles who kept the lights on that went missing. Even communication between our trade union members became more difficult. Finally, managed to scrounge together some valuables from corpses nobody was interested in. But who would have thought those Glasgow bastards are cleaning the streets from right under the sarkaz's noses? How am I gonna let that slide? But I gotta admit, when it comes to standing against those devils, the little bastards are a real good bunch. As of late, the devils have been going around indiscriminately grabbing people every now and then, making them clean up the dead bodies from the material transport channels outside the blockade. The helpless bunch either end up a part of that corpse pileup, or we get stuffed back inside this barbed wire and concrete cage after the work is done. Neither are particularly great options, but if you ask me, I find the prospect of being alive to go back home a bit more enticing. If not for those little bastards doing a solid for us when we were out there slaving our arses off, I might have ended up dead in a ditch a long time ago.
The more I saw them around, the more I took a liking to them. But recently a handful of the gangsters got a bit uppity and decided to take a swing at the devils while we were out there working. I managed to survive by playing dead, but those good lads weren't so lucky. When I went digging for their bodies to mourn for them, I pulled out one of the Glasgow's lads who was still clinging on to life by a thread. He begged me to take him to see his woman, and I couldn't say no. Unfortunately, I didn't find out until we got there that his woman's gang had some bad blood with Glasgow, and plus the devils mopped the whole place up a long time ago. At least the little bastard didn't last long enough to see the tragedy with his own eyes. I buried the little bastard together with his woman, and took the perfume he had bought for her as a present with me. When better days come and I meet a nice lady willing to be with me, this'll make a pretty nice gift. And as for the perfume, it says, in their fight against the Sarkaz, the leader of the Norport borough gangs reached a strange understanding on how to protect their neighborhood. They were planning to spearhead the resistance at the supply lines. Regardless of the outcome of their partnership, this was great news for the youngsters in love with people in their rival gangs. So, kind of a Romeo and Juliet kind of situation here with two rival gangs and a member on each side, and a story told to us from the perspective of a random citizen apparently, who keeps being dragged into menial labor that is, yeah, very right. Corpse patrol, huh? Anyway, this will be it for today's part. Next time, I do not know yet if the next part will be the last, considering we still have, what, like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20? I don't know. Well, there's probably past 20 when it comes to cutscenes. I'm pretty much just going by this. This being signed on to stage 20. But maybe we're gonna have 2 more parts. I'll see once I start reading the next section a day after this goes live, and see how the time is on every single one of the cutscenes that are gonna be following. But either we're gonna have 2 more parts or 1 more part. We'll see about that. But that's gonna be for next time. For now, thank you very much for listening as always. If you've liked this video, please consider leaving a like on it. It would help me a lot in the algorithm, and it means a lot to me, of course. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. There's a lot more on the channel, a lot more on the channel if you just want to sit back and listen to the Arknights stories being narrated and voice acted, with a couple of details here and there, pointing to other stories, just similar to how I did some stuff today. And of course there's also the membership, which is purely there just to support the channel if you would like to support the channel in that way, of course. And yeah, that is about it. Thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye.